Next, we have the Reimagine Learning Continuity of Learning Plan for Fall 2020. Dr. Swift.
Thank you to our auditors, and thank you, President Johnson and trustees and members of the community. It is our obligation to present an update each board meeting on this extended continuity of learning plan. And I have heard and absolutely have taken careful notes on the comments of the public commenters this evening. I will note that it is our obligation each week to update the board on the work of the district. And certainly we do our best to be informative, and we'll do our best this evening also to do that while also streamlining our time together. I just want to thank our teachers, our students and parents and teachers, and all of those who are working so hard to navigate this pandemic school year. We've heard the remarks, and we know that this is a challenging time on so many levels. Trustees, I had the opportunity Monday evening, just 2 nights ago, to sit with PTO council and reps from most schools, about 40 some parents in the meeting. And I appreciate Trustee Gaynor, you're joining there. That's my, I'm usually with PTO every month to hear from our parent representatives. And I had the good pleasure of hearing from them in a forum in late September. And then again, this past Monday evening. We just appreciate our parents and hearing from our parents. And we know that virtual learning is not our first choice. It is the choice that we have in front of us at this time, but we are all convinced that being in person, in school, face-to-face, students and staff is absolutely our shared goal. It's the best place for most every child and most every staff member. And we will continue to work every day to fully prepare for that day when we get to welcome our students back. And so this evening, trustees, we really have a balance between updating on our current virtual work to improve and support students and families and teachers and staff in the virtual environment. And we also have updates on our work to prepare for the next phase, which is a return to in-person learning. I want to talk a little bit about our current situation and just put this part of the update right up front. After I do that, we'll be bringing in a spotlight on the virtual learning classroom. These are not clips that are designed to be an advertisement. They're absolutely reflections of the work that's going on. So, and by sharing them, we don't mean to suppose that this is the perfect way that we want to do things. We certainly do want to be face-to-face, but we'll bring in a spotlight on the reading intervention classroom. Trustees, we've all asked each other, and we don't get to be in those classrooms every day, so we wanted to bring you a very brief clip of a spotlight on a reading intervention classroom and how that work is occurring. Then we'll be bringing the required, state required by law, two-way communication required reporting. So Ms. Parks will be bringing that forward. Trustees, we've heard from our commenters that these aren't good enough engagement metrics, and I couldn't agree more. We are looking forward to continuing to report deeper and deeper engagement metrics, and we just finished our first quarter, and Trustee Gaynor and I were chatting the other day about the number of metrics that we'll now be able to dig in more deeply. But we are required by law, trustees, to report this particular metric. So we'll do that briefly. And then coming out of our surveys, our 3 surveys, staff, student, and parents, Ms. Parks will be sharing some refinements that we've been working on with all of our stakeholders and that are actually moving into place now. Refinements to that virtual learning school day. We've really focused it around giving parents more choice in how they organize that school day, and we based it on what we've been hearing directly from our parents. We are bringing forward from Mr. Lautzana, Mr. Rice is also with us this evening, a building preparedness update. We have quite a lot of work going on in our buildings. We have had since literally the weekend of March 14th. We were busy working on our buildings right away with the required cleaning protocols, and we've been busy on our buildings ever since then. So Mr. Lautzana will be bringing that. I will share with you my recommendation for continuing our learning together in the district. And then trustees, at the end of this, you'll be asked to do the legislative required monthly confirmation vote. So that'll be coming up just here later this evening in this meeting. I want to talk a little bit about our current situation. Many of our commenters spoke to it this evening, and I absolutely hear and understand we need more supports for students in our virtual learning, and we are focused on getting students and staff in small groups back into our buildings just as soon as it is safely possible to do so. So we will continue to enhance the supports during this virtual learning time. We did hear regarding one community center this evening, and we've heard separately from one of our other community centers that they are potentially suspending their face-to-face supports over this 3-week pause period that the governor has announced. So we will be moving very quickly tomorrow to realign our supports out to those Connections Plus groups in a virtual and in other ways to make sure that we're filling in the gap there. We will continue, I know, as a community to work together to reduce this escalating spread. The words that were used on Sunday evening, many folks referring to the governor's press conference on Sunday evening, the words that were used by Robert Gordon, MD, HHS director, were Michigan's house is on fire. And secondly, he said, anywhere that people gather indoors presents risk. He was making those statements because of the very high levels of community spread that we are seeing right now at this time. So I'm not making that as a general statement. I'm making it regarding this particular time. During the time we've been in this meeting, we passed 250,000 deaths from COVID. We know that student and staff, parent and community safety and health remains our top priority. As soon as we get through this peak part of the curve right now, we are looking to bring in small groups of students. And I want to reiterate what we've said all along. These will be the youngest, the most vulnerable, the students with the highest level of challenge. We will bring those small groups in ahead of the stage 1 opening. We've been very diligent in our conversations that are occurring across all of our employee groups, and the plans will be emerging for this small group intervention activity face-to-face to occur. We will continue the work to maintain our buildings in a state of readiness, and we will continue to monitor the data every day, infection data every day, to update our district every week. And we will begin as soon as possible on the transition of grade by grade. And remember, trustees, it's kindergarten, young fives through second will be that first wave to transition into in-school learning, and then moving through the grades following that. So I just want to thank everyone for their patience and understanding. We absolutely have in our minds the impact of virtual learning, and we know that it is hard. It is hard on students and families. It is hard on staff, and it's hard on our community. We're going to now turn I want to do two quick things, and then we'll go to the spotlight into the classroom. I do want to point out on our food delivery, and I've been criticized for giving that too much attention, so I'll just touch on one point, which is that next week, due to the Thanksgiving break, trustees, I just want everyone in our community to remember that we will have a major food distribution day on Monday, November 23rd, and that will cover food for 10 days. So our Chartwell's teams are busy at Skyline and at Pioneer, and we will be distributing enough food to extend through that 10-day period to the Monday following Thanksgiving. Secondly, we've had a lot of requests from folks, so I just wanted to mention it's in here, the winter giving update, and many of our community members, one of our speakers spoke to it this evening, of wanting to pitch in and help. Our community is wonderful about helping out, and there is a place at a2schools.org, winter giving, and then as always, Food Gatherers is our partner in distributing food. If you've not done so, parents, we do have a new wide selection of A2 Reconnect classes, free classes available for kinder through 8th graders. And those will be both in-person outdoor as well as virtual classes. So we invite everyone to get online and get signed up so that you can participate. It's been a great thing to see our children out playing outdoors and participating in activities. So trustees, it'll just take a couple of minutes, but we wanted to share with you all and with our community actually an observation intervention classroom. Ms. Linden.
Thank you so much. Good evening, President Johnson, trustees, and Superintendent Swift. It is my pleasure to share this video with you. I am going to share my screen because I will be just scooting through the clip just a little bit. So bear with me for one moment, and then we're going to see Ms. Bernadette Swanson. And she is phenomenal. She is one of our building literacy experts. She works at Pat & Go. And what she is doing in this video, I'll just set up briefly for you. She is doing an introduction to several of the book collections that are in Mayan. And what she's trying to do here is to turn a group of students on to some reading that she thinks will be of interest to them. So you'll see her speak to a few students individually. You'll see 4 or 5 of them on screen with her at one point. But we all know that when you're trying to encourage students in their literacy skills, one of the big pieces is to make sure that they have interest in what they're reading. Now, in the old days of brick and mortar, so long ago, what you might see in an intervention reading group is 4 or 5 students sitting around the table with the teacher and all of them reading the same book. One of the silver linings of being in this virtual environment is that we've explored tools like Mayan, and now the ease of a teacher to work with 5 students all reading books of their own interest is suddenly much quicker and much easier. So in later clips, we'll bring back to show you that when she begins to work individually with students, you will see that she says, oh, you're reading that book. And in 2 seconds, she can also bring up the book on her screen and she's reading along in moments. So these are some of the benefits of Mayan, and we just want to thank the board for their support in that purchase. So without further ado, here is Miss Bernadette Swanson with her team. They're 3rd graders.
Okay, 3rd graders. Yesterday, I shared a series that I noticed a lot of 3rd graders were reading, and I wanted to just remind you of that one. So yesterday, I had noticed a lot of friends were reading this series with this character, Gus, and he is a hedgehog, and he acts like a human and has the same kind of problems that we do, like a bully and going to camp. And so lots of kids have been reading this book. And today I wanted to show you a different series. And I noticed that I picked this one because Jo-ung, every time I've read with him the last couple of days, he has been really reading sport books with sports. And so I discovered, and ironically, Jo-ung, you were reading one of these today, which was amazing. So I want to show you a new series that you might want to read if you like sports. So this series is called the Sports Illustrated Kids series. And you'll notice just by looking at the cover that all of these books have a sport theme. The cool thing about these books is it's a true story. It's not true, but
So we'll just hop forward a little bit. You'll see that the ease of how she clicks in.
So this is a realistic fiction book because it could happen. And I just want to show you that this is a graphic novel, which I know is really popular with 3rd graders. So it looks like a cartoon, but we call that a graphic novel.
And then we'll take you to the part where she asks if they'd like the book, and she can send it to them in an instant.
So as I discover these, and as you discover them, I want you to just share with me the series or the books that you're really enjoying so that we can start having you share with each other so we can keep learning about all the amazing books that are in Maya. And I also want you to know that if I share a bundle of books with you, like Gus or the Sports Illustrated Kids, if you want me to send those books to you, you just have to let me know and I will send them to you through your Mayan account. So anybody that wants Gus or Sports Illustrated Kids, just let me know and I'll send them. Okay? Yes, action.
Can I have the sports books?
Yeah, I will send them to you. And Sanaya, what did you want to say?
I like the Gus books.
Okay. So I'm going to go into Mayan and I will send you the books. And then when you open your project, you will see those in there. And then they'll just all be in one place for you to read. Okay?
So we'll just pause there. It's just a sampling, trustees, of how our building literacy experts are beginning to use Mayan, and we look forward to bringing more clips to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Linden. So Ms. Parks has arrived, and she is going to walk us through the required reporting, what's required by the state. And trustees, before we make this transition to Ms. Parks, I just want to give a shout out to Christina Ruthven, who is the art teacher at Abbott and Angel. And trustees, these beautiful kaleidoscopes that you see throughout this presentation are from Ms. Ruthven's students. And so just in your spare time while we're working through this, I hope that you enjoy, like we are, this beautiful student artwork. Ms. Parks.
Thank you, Dr. Swift, and good evening, trustees. This evening, I would like to share with you our monthly update on our two-way interaction rates. Per state legislation, our two-way interaction is interaction between a student and a teacher at least 2 times per week. And we're required to have a rate of at least 75%. You will see from the chart here that in all students, we are solidly averaging about 95% at least for our two-way interaction rates. The last three columns break down those two-way interaction rates by grade or level, so elementary, middle, and high school. And our district measure for attendance rates here on the next slide, if you remember from prior months' updates, our attendance rates are more rigorous than the state legislation around two-way interaction rates. So our attendance rates are teachers recording attendance daily for students in every course, and they're following up, school teams are following up in real time when students are not present in class. And so on the next slide, you'll see the graphic that you've seen before, which is our chart of average daily attendance rates. The column with all students, again, pretty solidly averaging at least 90% for all students. And like the previous slide, we have the levels broken down for you to see as well by elementary, middle, and high school as well. And so for the last slide here, we are talking about some refinements to the school day, as Dr. Swift mentioned in the introduction. And so some of those refinements we have already done, and some of those refinements are coming. And so at elementary school, what we heard pretty consistently across the board was that closing circle, which happened at the end of the day, many students were not coming back for closing circle because the synchronous part of the day, students had a break, and then there would be closing circle. And so the asynchronous time is for small groups. Students would log off, and then they were expected to come back for closing circle. And we weren't getting the majority of students back for closing circle. So what we will be doing after the Thanksgiving break is moving closing circle up to a little bit earlier in the afternoon, because it's a really critical part, an important part of our responsive classroom practices for students at the elementary level. We want to be able to capture as many students as possible. So listening to the feedback that we've gotten from principals and teachers and parents, we are going to be moving closing circle up earlier into the afternoon in hopes of capturing more students for that really critical part that ends their day together as a whole class. A refinement that we have already made at the elementary level is adjusting morning meetings so that they are meeting synchronously only 4 days a week. Initially, students were logging in on the Wednesday asynchronous day for morning meeting, and we heard feedback that just kind of interrupted the rhythm of that asynchronous time on Wednesdays. And so we've made that adjustment already, and elementary students no longer log on for a synchronous morning meeting on Wednesday. That day is completely asynchronous for them.
Ms. Parks, before you leave elementary, will you clarify that closing circle early afternoon, that we are still offering full engagement through the afternoon? But
yes.
We've heard from so many parents who are, as you know, trustees, we hear it from our public commentary speakers, they're trying to work their own job and they're trying to work with their elementary student. So we did provide that way to exit more flexibly for those families who need to, but there is more in the day. So would you address that, Ms. Clark?
So we're not doing away with any of that small group time or any of that we have already built into the day. That will continue. That continues throughout the afternoon as normal. But what the closing circle will do is, again, it provides that flexibility for families who want to log off a little bit earlier in the afternoon and be completely asynchronous the remainder of the afternoon to be able to do so. So we're not doing away with any of those small groups or specials or working with ancillary and special education staff that students are doing during that asynchronous time in the afternoon, that small group time in the afternoon, that is still taking place.
Thank you.
Thank you. So at secondary, the adjustment that we've already made for high school is based on the feedback that we've gotten from teachers and students and parents. We have reduced advisory down to 2 days of synchronous advisory for high school students, as opposed to 4 when we started out the school year. Those 2 days that they do not log on for synchronous advisory, teachers hold office hours so students can connect with their teachers to get help, answers to questions, and things of that nature. At the middle school level, some of the changes that are coming to refine the school day for middle school students involve increasing that break time between the learning blocks. We've heard pretty regularly from students, again, as well as staff and families, that students just don't have enough break time between those learning blocks. So we're going to build in some additional transition or break time between those learning blocks during the school day for middle school students. And we're also going to build in some additional time for lunch for middle school students as well. That's also been a consistent piece of feedback that we've received about the middle school schedule.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say thank you for this as well. First, I wanted to, address what Dr. Swift said when she started, and kind of the disclaimer that, we weren't trying to make this a commercial for virtual learning, and I can appreciate that. I also think that it is important to highlight where things are going well, and it was good to see Miss Swanson there. We actually were in school together. She's a product of Ann Arbor Public Schools, and so and she also worked with my daughter on reading at Patton Gill. And so it's always great to see our excellent staff, and to really kind of demystify, what that learning environment looks like. So I really appreciate that. And the other piece, I think sometimes we get criticism for this, because there's this idea that we're just trying to push this virtual learning on everyone. And I do think that through this process, I like seeing the innovations and the adjustments that you all are making, because even when we go back to in-person instruction, half of it is going to be virtual still. So it will, even when that day comes, until, for the foreseeable future, these will be improvements that are going to impact our kids. And I just want to say how thankful I am that you all are working hard at it. And even though we do get some of the comments that I'm sure can be somewhat demoralizing, just want to let you know that that we appreciate the hard work, and you're doing great. Have some great results. So keep it up.
Thank you.